How to be facing some difficult selection calls with probably three coming back in, that Nui Barras, Yo, on the back of a performance where some big names were unacceptable, perhaps?
Yeah, look, it's not just the weekend for us. It's been a bit of a pattern. So, well, no doubt, Nick, if he plays, will allow our midfield to get to work a little bit more than we have in the last 5 or 6 weeks. But I think there's been some growth there with our ability to play with a less dominant ruckman. I think Scott Lycett's really grown in the last 5 or 6 weeks carrying the load. But we've battled across the midfield. There's no doubt about that. And there's been some individuals, but that's my job to get the collective going. Nick will help that situation. But the changes we've probably made, I think we made 5 changes last week, 4 the week before. We'll make 3 or 4 again this week. So it's an indication that we're not quite settled yet with our side. We've been mixing up positions in the ruck as well. We've had Brown play ruck, Giles, and on the weekend we tried Gov, which didn't work for us. But, having Nick back on the side might give us a bit more stability across the board with personnel, but there's still some work to do with our individual performances.
Are you looking hard at some of your bigger names, the Cryer, Marston, Wellingham, established players that have been inconsistent? Are they secure?
Look, I don't think anyone's secure at the moment in our side. Having said that, our leaders in particular have really held their own, and we're really proud of how they're going. It's the collective that has been a little bit off at the moment. Our role players are really important for our club, and at the moment they're not holding up their end of the bargain. So that's my job. It's also theirs as well. So we're in it together, but we'll see how they go this week.
Simo, externally a lot of people are looking at Natanui as a great hope if you guys are going to do anything this year. How do you see it from your position?
Yeah, look, that's an interesting question because you want your good players playing, and he's a game changer. Nick at his best. He's one of those players, as Fife is as well, and Sanderland. So there's no doubt we like him in our side, but to think he's going to be the saviour, I think it's a stretch. And if we have to rely on one player, it just probably shows we've got a bit of work to do.
How long will it take him to get up and running back?
Well, that's a good question too. He's been training for probably 2 or 3 weeks. So going through rehab, strengthening his Achilles and his calf for the first 2 or 3 weeks. His calf completely switched off. Up until he had the operation, so to get the strength back in that. He's lost a bit of weight. He almost put his foot through Coxie's nose at training last week, so it probably told us he's ready to go. Look, I can't see him coming in playing the same levels in terms of minutes. Hopefully by the end of the season we'll get up to the same.
So that leap is good as ever?
Well, I think he might have increased a little bit. Yeah, losing a bit of weight and pain-free, you can imagine what he can do. So, in that sense, it's really exciting for him and for the club. But to think he's going to walk straight back in and deliver the same results as the past is probably a little bit of a stretch.
Was that a surprise that he's even increasing more? Was that ever expected?
Not really. When you're dealing with the Achilles and how you handle that throughout the year, he was in pain a lot throughout this season. He was playing really good football. He was probably 2 or 3 kilos heavier. And now that he's got that pain that's gone, his calves are stronger and he's a bit lighter. I think you'll probably see him with the same leap.
How much weight you mentioned 2 or 3 kilos? Is it that much, or has he lost it even more?
No, I think it's around that. Yeah, nothing too. He'll probably put it back on as he goes through the season, but he had a bit of a focus to especially with the load you got to carry with the Achilles at 114 and 15 kilos to carry a bit less weight just while he's going through rehab was important.
Adjusting to the weather was something that was an issue against Melbourne a couple of weeks ago. It looks like there might be showers at the end. Is this something you're going to address in the next couple of days?
Yeah, well, we've had a little bit of wet weather the last few weeks. It's been one of those winters over here, so definitely East Perth have been dealing with it for a number of weeks. It's been a challenge of ours to try and get as much training as we can in the wet to adapt. I'm sure Freo are the same. It's a different ball game when it's raining, and we don't experience it as much as we probably could in the off season in particular. So it's a different style of play you've got to play, no doubt.
About this time last week, you said you had winning form, but not necessarily good form. Is
Yeah.
it hard to underline that to the players when you've won 5 in a row, and does a loss maybe make the point a little bit more solidly with the players that you're not playing that well?
Perhaps, yeah. We're pretty consistent in how we review and approach each week. Making sure we instill the right attitude with our players about the season is important for us, because there's been a lot of negativity about our recent form, but we're still winning. So the way we see it is we need to win another game to qualify for finals, and this week's the closest game available. So we've still got plenty of optimism for the season, and making sure we're aware of where we're at on the ladder is not to the point where we're giving up, and that needs to be known throughout our players. You know, the season's very much alive. So getting the balance for us, knowing we have to improve, is critical as a group and as a coaching group. But we've just about got there with wins. So the season's still alive for us. We've got to be very clear about that.
A couple of times this season you've indicated you've looked at a block of games. Have you looked at this last 4 as a block on the back of that lot?
Oh, look, we do that every season. So we're always in the middle of a block of games. So, and there's different themes and focuses for that block in terms of how we're playing, what we need to do. Less about the opposition.
And so was Nick's return part of that?
It wasn't in the block, no. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. So we're just wrapped to get him back. Hopefully he gets through training today.
You'll be a better team with him there.
Oh, well, you'd think with a player of his quality, he's a franchise player. He's an A-grade All-Australian ruckman, but he's also going against a very similar presence at Fremantle. So I don't think you'll see a heap of difference in the two ruckmen at their best. It's a great matchup, and you'll probably see the same again.
But then in that block you're talking about, he's pretty critical to.
Oh, look, he's critical for our success, you know, but as I said before, you want your good players playing, no doubt about that. But we'd like to think we could rely less on Nick's presence in the midfield in particular.
On paper and looking at ladder positions, most people would be tipping the Eagles win. But are you guys conscious that derbies throw up more upsets than just regular games?
Yeah, I'm not really looking at the derby history. We know that Fremantle are a very proud side, and playing against us, obviously there's a bit more to it. But as Ross has mentioned before, we'll prepare the same. We're exactly the same. Our season is still very much alive, but we need to have success with the 4 points, regardless of who we play this week.